We're going to take a look at the top 10 fantasy baseball drops coming up next on Beat the Odds. Don't go anywhere. Hello, sports fans. Welcome back to another episode of Beat the Odds. We're going to take a look at the top 10 drops that you can safely drop from your squad. If you are a fan of this type of content, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so that way you'll be notified whenever we drop an episode. We're going to dive right into number 10. We have Julio Urias. He's currently owned in 96% of leagues here. Last week, he had an outing here. 3 innings pitched, 2 strikeouts, 15 ERA, 2.67 whip. Urias took a very ugly loss in Kansas City his last turn out here, which would be his first start since going down with his hamstring injury. He also struggled against St. Louis prior to getting hurt. Now, I might not drop Urias just yet. Rust is not uncommon after being out for 6 weeks, but if his struggles continue against Pittsburgh, I could potentially change my mind. To number 9 we go. Jeremy Pena, 80% owned, 4 runs scored, 1 homer, 3 runs batted in, 1 stolen base, 250 average over the last 2 weeks. Pena is due back tonight after missing the last 5 games with neck stiffness. For the season as a whole, Pena has been somewhat underwhelming at the plate, which is something that you typically see with players in year 2 of their career. He has a low-key shot at 2020 this season, but there is enough available shortstops who will likely end up with a better fantasy season than Jeremy Pena. I'm looking at Ezequiel Tovar and Ezequiel Duran as examples. Let's go to number 8, CJ Crone, 63% owned, 4 runs scored, 1 run batted in, 333 average over the last 14 days. He's recently returned from back spasms. He's been out for about 6 weeks. And Crone has been kind of moved to the 5-hole in that lineup. The thing for me with Crone is back spasms in fantasy sports typically worry me. There's usually a high chance of recurrence, which makes Crone a very risky play for the rest of the season. To number 7, Wilson Contreras, 81% owned. Last 2 weeks, he had 4 runs scored, 1 homer, 1 run batted in, 344 average, which is very nice, actually. Contreras might be close to getting his swagger back at the plate. He is slotted in at the cleanup spot on a St. Louis team that is struggling mightily to score. There's still time for Contreras and St. Louis to turn their seasons around, but they will need to get more production than 1 run batted in every 2 weeks out of their current cleanup hitter. Let's go to number 6. We got Brandon Lau. Didn't post any stats. Got a 250 average here over the last couple of weeks. Now, he's another player coming back from a back injury. He only posted the 1 game. Lau had come back from a herniated disc. So kind of like CJ Crone, very, very risky to pick up Brandon Lau based on that type of injury. I was big on Lau at the start of the season, of course, and he rewarded fantasy managers in April. But since then, he has been unrosterable. I can't see Tampa Bay giving unlimited at-bats to Lau given their wealth of infielders and Lau's recovery from his injury. To number 5 we go. Nolan Gorman, 59% owned here. Last week, he posted 4 runs scored. Last 2 weeks, 4 runs scored, 1 homer, 3 runs batted in, 222 average. Gorman, kind of like Lau, rewarded fantasy managers with a very productive first couple of months of the season, but he also, like Lau, has gone ice cold for a very long stretch of time. Gorman is now platooning. He missed the last 2 games for St. Louis because they had a left-handed starter that they were facing, and I would imagine that trend should continue throughout the rest of the year. Let's go to number 4. We got Alex Lange, 67% owned. Last 2 weeks, he posted 5.1 innings, 6 strikeouts, 1 win, 1 save, 3.38 ERA, 1.69 whip. I typically like to have 1 reliever featured on this list, so the reliever that we're going to take a look at is Alex Lange. Now, this isn't really so much as a knock on Lange. I probably wouldn't drop him just yet. This is more of a signal to pick up Jason Foley, who has been out pitching Lange pretty much all season, and he could easily slip into the closer role if Lange's walk rate doesn't improve. To number 3, we got Giancarlo Stanton, 77% owned. Over the last 2 weeks, he's got 4 runs scored, 1 homer, 7 runs batted in, 237 average. If you believe that Stanton has 40 home run power, then keep him on your roster. He's not going to be on mine, because even though I believe he does possess that type of power, it's likely going to take him 3 years to get to that mark. Stanton has just been on a very unfortunate assembly line of injuries, and it seems to be that he faces these every single season. And add to the fact that he is very prone to strike out, just makes Stanton a difficult player to roster. To number 2, we're going to look at Jarred Kelenic, 61% owned. Last 2 weeks, he's got 7 runs scored, 5 runs batted in, 3 stolen bases, 178 average. We saw flashes of what Kelenic can do at the start of the year at the plate. He was arguably Seattle's best hitter in April. What we are seeing now looks a lot more like the league's worst hitter that we saw for the first 2 seasons that Jarred Kelenic was in the bigs. Having a floor like that just scares me, and I won't be rostering him on teams. And let's go to number 1, the player that I would drop the most here, Luis Severino, 71% owned, 10 innings pitched over the last 2 weeks, 1 win, 6 strikeouts, 6.3 ERA, 1. Severino suffers from a severe lack of consistency from start to start. He can go from facing the league's top offense in Texas and shut them out for 6 innings, to one of the league's worst offenses in St. Louis and get hammered to the tune of 7 runs and 12 base runners in 4 innings pitched. As the season slides into the second half, having trustworthy starting pitchers is huge. It is a must, and Severino is just way too volatile to roster. And that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please do leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. But we are going to sign off for now, and we are going to catch you guys on our next episode.